Howdy, folks, I'm Brian. Recently, I had a conversation with someone in the comments below the video where I talked about the quarantine the family. Will I be a jerk if I contact the preschool's director and ask them to quarantine a family who's currently on vacation in Thailand? During that video, I did say some stuff that at the time was accurate to the CDC. The frustrating thing is at the time, there was a lot of things going on in the world, and we didn't really have a lot of clear answers. And I actually probably made a very poor call in that situation. At the time in that video, I said that that wasn't actually any evidence that it was worse than the flu. And at the time, we didn't think that that was the case. Since then, we've learned a lot about this virus, and, many of the things I said in that video were completely disproven. But do bear in mind that I, at the time, was actually following the advice of the CDC, the guidelines that they had imposed. And it just happens to be that if you make a video about an event that you don't realize is going to change the world, that you might just be wrong. And I mean, we're all wrong every once in a while. I also didn't want to say anything at the time that I thought would be panicky, and I also didn't want to say anything that would come across as xenophobic either. We try our best sometimes to do what we can to help out and make sure that people aren't being mistreated or being treated poorly. So during that post, I didn't come down hard on the individual. I didn't come down on OP. I just said that you shouldn't be worried too much about this. It probably isn't going to be that big of a deal. That, this wasn't necessarily as bad as the flu. All things which we matter-of-factly know aren't true to this day, right? I mean, there's no denying that a lot of the things I said were out of, ignorance of the situation. When the thing is that at that time, China had just gone into lockdown. We didn't know that China was going to stay in lockdown for, 70 days or something like that. It was something that just kind of happened. It didn't really seem like things were going to get as bad as they did. I had already prepared a little bit and stocked up on some supplies at that point in time, just out of caution. But it was also not something where we were being given guidance at the time that things weren't going to be that bad. And it also doesn't help when you have a lot of people in official places saying things that aren't really factually true. And so it made it really difficult to judge how much to say about the situation and how much would be panic-inducing. I like to be overly cautious, and I do like to, make sure that I'm prepared. And I think that, one thing I did say in that is just be prepared and wash your hands and follow the CDC guidelines. And I think those were all really good pieces of advice. And everything changed very, very rapidly from that point. I think even at the time, I don't even know if we had any cases in the US at the time. If we did, it was, one or two, and they may have been the quarantine ones from the Air Force Base. So, I don't know. I just felt like kind of talking about this and giving kind of a retrospective on that one, because that feels like one of my worst calls that I've made on this. And, I also, want to make sure that my position on this is clear, that I think that you should follow the guidelines set forth by your state and local governments. You should use, some level of protection to protect yourself from, breathing in the virus. You should get your vaccines. And I really think that those are all really good and really important things. And, that's just kind of my stance here. I honestly feel a little bad about that post because of just how off base I was. And I know I'm rambling here, so I do apologize for that. But I just thought it would be important to kind of come out and say that, no, that video is very old at this point in time. Pandemics work exponentially fast. We had no idea how bad this was going to be at the time. And if, I could travel back in time and, tell a different story, I probably would. I had this idea to start this channel like at the beginning of December at the end of December in 2019. And I thought it would be fun to do, and so I was just kind of giving some advice because I've always enjoyed advice columns and I've enjoyed giving advice, and I just think it's something that's fun to even just talk about some of these stories and listen to them too. So it just seems like something that was up my alley, and I don't know, I just think at that time I was in way over my head for what we were about to be exposed to, so I don't know. I do feel bad about it, and I really do enjoy talking about, some of my failures here and whatnot, because it helps to remind, I think everyone here, including myself, that, I'm going to say things and they aren't always going to be right. And that's why it's important for people to think on their own and to come up with their own thoughts and decisions on things. And so it really is important, if you think that I've said something that's kind of out of line, for you to just be like, hey, I think you're, saying something that I don't agree with. And sometimes, I'll turn around and be like, oh yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I was being unreasonable in this situation, and yeah, I was wrong. I will. If I feel honestly, sincerely like I'm wrong and you've made a good point, I will change my mind. I'm not invested in my points of view that much. But also, like, sometimes if you say something and I don't necessarily fully agree with it, I might still say, you have a point here, but I don't necessarily fully agree with your point, but you do have a valid point. I don't know if it changes the overall judgment or whatever. So, just remember, we're all human, we all make mistakes, and none of us can see the future. So, yeah. What else? Oh, yeah, I just remember, going into the year 2020 with pretty high expectations. I had just finished my PhD at the time. I was feeling like I finally had some free time. At the time when I started this blog, I was actually not employed. And I was trying to find a job as well. And I found a job, and it's been treating me very well. And so, I just had a lot of hope for that year. Later in that year, Amber and I were going to, well, we did have a wedding, with 10 guests. And so it was one of those things where, we had our plans really change on us very suddenly, very rapidly. And it, was just kind of one of those things where I think we all had a pretty rough year in 2020, and no one saw any of this stuff coming, and it was really kind of difficult. I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest, kind of talk about how I do appreciate people coming and talking and making comments on the channel, and even if the videos are really super old, I still try to answer, because if you've taken the time to write out a comment, I want to take the time and respond if I can. I don't know if I'll always be able to, but so far I haven't had a problem. But I do try, and I really do want to, reply to people and have conversations and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I've been going on now for about 10 minutes or so. I'll probably cut some of this rambly bit out a little bit. But thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening to this. And, thanks for the folks who've been watching this and, enjoying these videos. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch them. I really enjoy recording them. And I enjoy, the conversations we have around these. So, again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks again, and I'll see you all tomorrow or today, depending on when I post this.